all of my corporate professionals. So in today's topic, we're going to talk about how to explain being fired at an interview to a hiring manager. First of all, if you're watching this because you've been fired, I just want to give you a hug. It's going to be okay. Being fired, as you can imagine, is a very horrible and sometimes humiliating experience for whoever is going through it. And a lot of the time it can be accompanied with feelings of failure, feeling like you failed yourself or you failed the job that you were in. And also, more than anything else, there's that fear about whether or not you're even capable of getting another job after you've been fired. And sometimes because of these reasons, it can actually stop somebody from even looking for another job because they automatically assume that they would not even be considered. So, can you get a job after being fired? The short answer to that is yes. There are many people that go on to have very successful careers after they've been fired previously. So being fired in and of itself will not stop you from getting another job. However, how you go about it will determine whether you get another job or not. It also heavily relies on the relationship that you have with your previous employer after you've been fired. Yes, and I know you're probably all thinking, well, yeah, relationship's not great if I've been fired. So let me explain. Whether or not you get a good or bad job reference is in the power of your ex-employer. So the relationship you have with your ex-employer after being fired is very crucial. So that brings up the next question on whether or not an employer can even reveal that you've been fired. Now, although there is some guidelines on what employers can and cannot say in a reference, there is no law that prohibits them from stating that you've been fired. And check this out, they can even go as far as saying the reasons why you got fired. I have a whole other video called How to Handle a Bad Reference, in which it talks about how to mend a relationship with your ex-manager in order to be able to sometimes even get a good reference or satisfactory reference, which will be great in preventing you even having to explain that you've been fired for a new position. So I advise watching that video first. But if those tips have not helped you and you realize that no matter what you do, that your manager is not going to give you a good reference or satisfactory reference, then keep on watching to the end of this video. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. Please don't beat yourself up about being fired, because the truth is statistics actually show that 60% of employees actually leave on bad terms. Okay, so now let's get into how to explain being fired. Now, in order to know how to explain being fired effectively, you first need to understand what the new employer is looking for in you and what they want to hear from you. Although being fired is a red flag to employers, they're more concerned with how you act after you've been fired. What they want to gather from you is, have you taken personal responsibility for being fired? Have you taken accountability for it? Is the issue in which you were fired still an issue, or is it no longer a problem? This is important as it gives them insight into your personality and how you cope with an adversity, as well as that it also gives them insight into your emotional maturity. Before I go any further, if you are in a situation right now where you are job searching, and although you're getting interviews, you'll find that you're facing constant rejection at the interviews and you're not getting any job offers, then I have the thing for you. So I have a free interview confidence webinar, which is teaching candidates how to have confidence at interviews in order to wow employers and land that job. And many people have been using this to land the jobs that they didn't even think they could ever get. So I'll leave the link below on the webinar. So now let's get into the explaining part. The first tip I'll give you for explaining being fired is Do not lie. Lying is literally the worst thing you can do, especially when you know that your employer is going to give you a bad reference because you're still on bad terms. Because when you lie and let's say the employer does give you a bad reference, your ex-employer, it can actually make the new employer withdraw their job offer from you, which will even be more devastating. So don't lie about the situation. Secondly, when you are explaining the reason, make sure not to play the blame game. So what I mean by this is do not badmouth the company, do not badmouth your ex-employer. Don't focus on the negativity, because when you do this, it just speaks bad about your character, and the employer is going to see you as a problematic employee and not consider you a cultural fit or somebody that they want to hire. And just adding on with that, when you're explaining the reason, make sure that you are taking accountability and you keep it positive by explaining what you've learned from that process, so what you've taken away, what you could have done differently, things of that nature, as this shows that you've learned from that situation and you've improved as a person. That's what they want to see. And when you're explaining the reason, please do not overshare, okay? You don't want to go ages talking about every single detail of what happened. Just keep it very brief and succinct. You can probably explain it within a sentence or two and then move on to the rest of the interview. After you've given your explanation, the last stage that you should do is explain why the new job is what you're looking for and the reasons why. So it doesn't just look like you're applying for any other job, but you actually have a desire for this job that you're applying for. Now, I can't say all of this without giving you an example. So here we go. So this was a woman that was let go because of performance reasons. Okay, so if you're anyone out there that got fired due to performance reasons, you can decide to use this example if you'd like. So she starts off by saying, in retrospect, I understand my former employer and I had different expectations about what success meant in my role. So as you can see there, she's explained what the situation is. They weren't on the same page. And yes, okay, so performance reasons, she was let go. At the second part, she says, as I reflect on that experience, I realize there are some things that I could have done differently. So this is the part where she's showing her emotional maturity. She's taken accountability for it. She's saying she's learned through that experience as well, which is all desirable to an employer to want to hear. She goes on to say, I learned a lot and I'm excited about the opportunity to bring that maturity to my new job. So she's actually talking about what she's learned, how she can bring that to the new job to actually benefit the organization, which is a very clever move to make. She then goes on to say, this role is in line with my skills and abilities and the direction I'd like my career to take. So here she's giving the reason about why this new job is what she's looking for. So now she's telling the employee, she's not just looking for any other job. She's really interested in this job and this is where she wants the direction of her career to go. And you can use that as a guideline to explain your reason for being terminated. So before I end this, if you are in a situation where you have been fired and want to know how to deal with having a bad reference, please watch my video at the top on handling a bad reference and how to go about that. Okay, so that brings me to the end. I hope you found that example and this video helpful, and I hope this will help you to explain your reason about being terminated to the employer and land the job that you want. Please let me know about your experiences of going for interviews with this situation and how you are going to move forward with these new tips. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel for everything job related and on how to pass interviews. I'll see you in the next video.